Okay, today I'm here with Coach Sama, the founder and director of Gymnastics Bodies, the biggest adult gymnastics online training program. Um, Presenting this for the Integrative Strength Collective, so coaches and performance coaches who want to go to the next level. You can find out more about that at coachkeegan.com. Let's get straight to it. Coach Sama, can you tell us a little bit about your background as a coach?
Oh, goodness. All right. Long-time U.S. national junior team coach, uh, train national champions. That's my job was my job till last December to prepare athletes just before we hand them off for heading up to the Olympic level. Done it for nearly 40 years now. Have spent the last 10 years or so uh, learning how to work with adults. So our adult program basically takes all the methodologies that I use to develop our elite level athletes, and we adapted it down for the general fitness market.
Yep.
So we probably have well, I know we have the largest gymnastic strength training forum on the planet. We've got over 16,000 members there active on our forum. That's gymnasticbodies.com. A lot of free information there. There's a public forum and then private forums. But the public one is just loaded with information.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff on there for people who want to get into this style training, and I guess it is pretty information dense in a way. Like there's a lot to learn if you want to get into gymnastics, coming from a weight training background or any kind of physical activity. I would say that gymnastics style training is a lot more information dense and technical than other styles of training. So it's really important, I think, to find that good coaching. Can you tell us a bit about what difference it makes to have a coach with this sort of work as opposed to just kind of freestyling it?
Excellent point. What we're finding, guys, is that now for us it's everyday bread and butter. It's what we're used to, as far as national team coaching. But compared to other methodologies, it's much more sophisticated. There is a steeper learning curve, as Keegan pointed out. Um, what we're finding now is we see, for example, the street workers have been getting more advanced. They start off with doing their pull-ups and their dips, and now they've tried to segue into doing some of the more advanced gymnastic strength elements. And what's happened in just the last few months is four, I believe, and the names will escape me. Adam Raw is one of the names, but four of their top people around the world have all torn biceps tendon, I believe distal. And the issue there is not simply that they got hurt, but that particular injury is one that does not heal well. That one, even if the surgery goes well, they're still looking at a permanent, probably 25% loss in function. So what you'll find, yeah, it's brutal and unnecessary. You'll find that we're very aware of the necessity of slowly giving connective tissue a chance to adapt to the loads. Where what came back from us was that coach is just old, coach is just conservative, coach isn't cool, coach doesn't get it. Like to point out that none of my athletes have ever blown their elbow like these guys have blown. So part of that's just young and being full of testosterone and being in a hurry. But it's no different than bench, and instead of working my way up gradually, I just decided I'm benching 300 today. You're gonna pop your chest, and this GST has to be treated with the same level of respect.
Yeah. So the loading in the gymnastic style movements is a lot different to your traditional weight training when you're looking at straight arm strength. Uh, can you talk to us a little bit about how that can be beneficial to guys who've just been doing normal sort of gym training?
Well, what we found, guys, is probably to put it in terms that make sense to you, because we could talk about all the movements that we do, and if you don't do those movements, there's no frame of reference that we share. But we will have guys who the first time they touch a bar do a triple body weight deadlift. We just had Niles, who's one of our top students. Keegan had a chance to meet and work with Niles
Yep.
during our Sydney seminar. Niles at maybe 80 kilograms body weight. Second time he touched a bar did almost 100 kilo on hang clean, power clean. So my guys, first time they touched a bar, in about 40 minutes of instruction, I had was either 7 or 8 athletes all jerking body weight and a half. So the reason we mentioned the weights is, I know by lifting standards, those are okay. Those are okay weights. But the point is that the GST done correctly prepares the body to hit the ground running pretty hard once they shift over to weights. I would submit much faster than someone who started with just bar alone.
Yeah. So if we're talking about those, super strong tendons that you're going to need, like if these exercises, can pop tendons if we go too fast in them, like, do you have any idea on how you can sort of quantify the strength of the tendons of gymnasts? They must be phenomenal.
Well, the probably easiest way is, for example, people will look at an iron cross and think it's just a body weight, but the important thing to understand is that we can't measure it by the load of body weight. We have to measure the load in torque, which is pounds per inch, and the way we'll measure that is, let's say, and we'll just make this easy to the math easy and the measurements easy for the illustration. But let's say someone had a 30-inch sleeve, which of course would be freakishly long arms, but we'll just do it for the math. So a 30-inch sleeve, and let's say he weighs 200 pounds. To measure the torque in him, then we would go from center of his chest out to the edge of the wrist, times half the body weight, which gives us 3,000, times 2, which gives us 6,000 inch-pounds of torque. So what happens is someone who's not used to those training loads, they mistakenly think, oh, it's just body weight, and they try to pop down either into a straight arm, which hopefully they'll be smart enough to feel the strain and stop, realizing that the load's too much and they need to go back to more basic elements. Or perhaps scarier, they'll go down and do the cross anyway, but to relieve tension, they'll bend the elbows. And then that will protect the elbows for a while until they try to straighten them, and then the elbow will explode. We had a couple of students who came to us after they got tired of beating themselves up. Now, of course, they have to heal for a year before we can do anything with them. Now, I think, what did Dylan hit? So one of our advanced athletes went on to college, was doing well, and I think he, not monstrous for benching, but I know he hit double body weight bench in about 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, it's there's that base of being able to recruit, motor units, and I think the complexity of gymnastics where your body has to become so dexterous, be able to recruit the motor units in a lot of different ways from different angles. It makes sense that guys, can then solve, the simple problem of a bench press when they've been used to a more complex problem of, freestanding handstand push-ups and, advanced training on the rings where there's that instability element as well as, the huge amount of force. I mean, it makes sense that those guys are hitting some
well, and
numbers.
I would want the guys to consider also is that most gymnastics strength training primarily focuses, the guys are huge, the guys are beasts, they're carrying a lot of muscle mass, but our nature of training focuses first and foremost on preparing the joints to handle all the loads that we're under when we work out. For example, when they tumble, those Achilles before they go up in the air, for those multiple flips, just hit 14 times body weight as a load. So athletically, you if they could understand how to calmly and patiently, and most injuries occur to the joint. Very, very rarely is an injury going to be to the muscle belly itself. So especially if you're working with athletes, you're going to find that they get much quicker increases in performance if you take care of joints and joint preparation first. Kind of heading off of when I started, Alan is in the pipeline right now for Rio. He's coming up on 19. I started training him when he was 6. My biggest nightmare was, what did I overlook in his joint preparation? Because it's not the muscle tissue that's going to go down. It's the joints that are going to go down. And
Yeah.
if you're working with higher level athletes or people who are involved in athletics, it's the joints you need to care for first.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the biggest things, I guess, for you to have those results you've had as a coach. You've got to keep those athletes healthy, and that's something that people often don't realize when they're working in personal training or whatnot. That at the elite level, it's really about backing up those training sessions. Can you tell us a bit about?
Well, and for the guys who are working with their clients also, a client who's not making progress or a client who's injured is very quickly, if it continues, going to be a former client.
Exactly. Yeah. And can you talk a bit about like how lost training time, when the time you miss in an injury isn't just the time that you sort of lose? I like the way you explain that.
Uh, it's a good point. So part of a conversation, guys, that Keegan and I were having was that let's say people very much underestimate the amount of time required not only to heal but to get back to their previous level of performance, and that there's a difference in the time it takes to heal between muscle tissue and connective tissue. Metabolic rate of connective tissue is 1/10 that of muscle tissue, which for our purposes as coaches means that if we have a connective tissue injury, it's going to heal 10 times slower. It's going to take 10 times longer to get better. So we also have to factor in now, say it's a joint injury, it's connective tissue, and it's going to take 1 week to heal. It's very light, it's very mild. Well, it's not just going to take that week. After he heals that week, when they come back, now it's going to take another week to get back to previous levels of performance. So it was really a 2-week window. And then we can extrapolate that out. If it was 1 month to heal, then after that 1 month of healing, it's going to take another month to get back up to previous performance levels. So there's a 2-month window. And then you can see 2 months, 3 months, 3 months becomes 6 months. I had elbow injury once that took 18 months. Incredibly annoying. Now we will see, and usually this happens with younger coaches. Guys, there something to understand is that older coaches like myself aren't patient because we're saints. We're every bit as impatient as you guys are. The only difference is we've had our teeth kicked in enough times to learn that if we aren't patient or force ourselves to appear to be patient, then we can't help our athletes get to a high level. So the reason I mentioned that in this circumstance is that someone who doesn't respect that window to give the athlete a chance to gradually ramp back up again is just going to re-injure the athlete, and then the process starts over.
100%. And I've got a couple of friends actually who've just blown Achilles tendons, and they're getting back towards end stage rehab. It's yeah,
Okay.
really tough one. But can you talk a little bit about like how some of that tendon rehab stuff actually happens in terms of remodeling and blood flow? And how do you get that done?
Sure. Well, actually, what happens is when we tend to focus too much on maximal strength, and it's not that we don't need the maximal strength, but it's that in terms of being a natural athlete, maximal strength is a single component of their entire athletic ability. It's not the be all and end all of preparing someone to perform on the field of play, because almost unless they're a lifter, right? Almost, in fact, I've never seen it. Someone who is the strongest athlete in the weight room is never the best athlete out on the field. It doesn't work that way. But for whatever reason, it works as far as getting strong. It doesn't help us with agility. It doesn't help us with explosiveness. It doesn't help us with coordination. So what happens is we tend to start doing too much work that's low rep in nature, which is great for maximal strength, but is terrible for connective tissue health, ligaments, tendons, fascia. None of that has its own dedicated capillary system. So the way it's fed, the way that kind of tissue is nourished, is through movement. So if movement is only being done in low rep, we're not getting enough blood flow through the area. So in fact, the stronger you are, the more essential it is that at least once a week you have a day where you're just going in, you're getting some kind of high rep circuit training. You can't treat it as a strength day per se. We're using it more as a prehab day. Put whatever together. For obviously what a gymnast does is gonna what they'll do for recovery. A high level gymnast is gonna be maximal strength work for a regular adult. So you have to scale it correctly. You can't just look at what my guys will do and say, well, they're on their off day and that's what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
But you know, maybe it's scaled down all the way to push-ups or air squats.
Yeah.
One of my mentors was the Olympic coach for Bulgaria for 70s and 80s, and he's the one that first taught this to me. So the way, for example, that they prehab Achilles tendons is not with strength work with heavy loads, but just doing high rep body weight calf raises. They'll do 3 different foot positions: square, pointing straight ahead, turned out to the side, foot turned in, with 150 reps in each position. And what that does is it flushes the area with blood, and that's what helps keep that connective tissue healthy. No need, because when you're doing athletics, you're already under tremendous load. The last thing we need to do is increase load and beat the area up some more. We need to treat the area.
Yeah, so you're already going to be doing your jumping and whatnot. It's the low intensity stuff that we often miss, I guess. And I've been doing it just since I went to your workshop. The penny kind of dropped on how you're actually running your program, and it made a lot of sense to go back. I definitely was a guy who's been a victim of that philosophy of just working on the maximal strength because that's the sexy stuff. But since I've been doing the rep stuff, on your recommendation, I feel that my recovery from workouts is faster, a lot less tendon pain, and so, together with some of the mobility work that we did, my shoulders are feeling the best they've been in a long time. So
that's excellent.
Yeah.
And you'll find also mentally it's a break from all the maximal work, and you'll find that it's also a tonic for the nervous system if we use that as a recovery day. So then when it is time to get back, to the higher intensity work, you're prepared to do so.
Yeah, I think it's pushing my strength up as well. Just time on the hands kind of thing.
Very good point.
If we go to time on the hands, a lot of guys in my collective are trying to work on static handstands, just a freestanding handstand. A lot of guys will say, "Yeah, I can walk around, but I just can't quite nail this freestanding thing." And they think because they're walking around kind of close to a good handstand. But how long does it usually take someone to learn a static freestanding handstand?
For you guys in Australia, it's probably going to take double because you guys have such terrible shoulder flexion. I remember, Keegan, you were telling me about the ball players and the rugby guys who they couldn't even put arms up overhead.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that
flexion was so compromised.
Yep, does happen.
And so, part of it now. I guess maybe the way I always look at it, guys, is I'm never in a rush. I have before I passed Alan on to university, I had over 16,000 hours invested in training that athlete over the course of 12 years. I don't get in a hurry about things. I know that a lot of times people want to know, how long will it take? And the honest answer is, it depends. It varies. And to my mind, it's going to take what it takes. If you're coming to the table with substantial deficits, then it doesn't make sense that you're going to try to ignore those deficits and jump right into handstand work. I understand Keegan used the perfect word. I understand that it's sexy. I understand it's exciting. I understand it's cool. But I also understand, as a longtime national team coach, that it's a waste of time. The first thing you have to do is you've got to go back and you've got to correct the deficits. Now, it doesn't mean you can't play a little bit at the end of the workout, but if you approach your workout, say it's a 40-minute handstand session, then I'm going to do 30 minutes of playing on my hands in an anatomically incorrect position with pike shoulders and arched back and heads out, pelvis is in incorrect position. I spend 30 minutes there, and then I try to cram in addressing my mobility deficits in 10 minutes, you're going to get nowhere really, really fast. You're not going to make any progress, where what it should have been was exactly the opposite. We should have been doing weighted mobility, healing the shoulders, correcting these problems, play a little bit at the end, have some fun. Then once the issue is done, guys, it's done. And then you just have to maintain and move on. But the first thing is you got to accept that there's an issue, and this issue isn't going to go away. It's going to continue. I can bury my head in the sand all I want, but it's still there. So fix it hard, get it done, and then move on.
Yeah. How important is a freestanding handstand? Is it just a party trick, or what role does it play in gymnastic strength training?
Well, for us, it's crucial. There is no GST without a handstand. Uh, we're finding also with older clients that handstand is it's a little corny, but I'd be willing to put it right. It's not the fountain of youth, but it's pretty doggone close. It's pretty doggone close. Guys can also check our my personal Facebook page and Christopher Summer, and you'll find I shared today a study from South America where they followed 2,000 adults over a period of years, about 6 years, ages 51 to 80, and they found out, so the weighted mobility that we do for knees, for meniscus specifically, for my athletes, they found now is an indicator of mortality for these older adults. So if they could do it sitting on the ground with legs crossed, they could stand up without assistance, without bobbling, without having to use a hand. They had a scoring criteria, then they would be fine. If they found if they scored on a scale of 10, 8 points or less, that they were twice as likely to die within a 6-year period. And if they had a lot of trouble getting off the ground, so each time they'd use a hand for balance, they'd lose a point, or they had to put a hand on a leg, they'd use a point, or their balance wobbled, they'd lose half a point. And they found the ones who, scaling wise, only got 3 points out of 10, they were 5 times as likely to die within the next 6 years.
Yeah.
So they just tracked that over 2,000 patients. So we've not only for the high level performance, but we've got to start taking this mobility very seriously just for quality of life.
100%. And it's awesome to see people taking this on, later in life. I didn't start any gymnastic style training till I was 30, beyond what had been part of
Okay.
weight training programs. And I feel like I'm definitely becoming younger, through this stuff, just more mobile, better able to control my body. And it is a feeling of, regaining youth, which is such a cool thing. I'm watching my baby,
Well,
body
it
weight
gives
training
you
all day.
it gives you that feeling of suppleness back, that feeling of smooth athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable, and it's great that this program, that you're running is so scaled that people can pretty much jump on at any level and they're going to get results from it. So if you're listening to this and you don't feel like you're super strong yet, that don't feel like you're going to miss the party here, because you can definitely get involved in this.
Well, what we learned the hard way, guys, that when I first taught our first adults, maybe 9 years back now, uh, I went into my first seminar with false expectations, simply because I'd been around all these world-class athletes for so many years that it skewed my expectation of what was normal. So we went into the seminar, and what would have been a 15-minute stretch for my athletes took me an hour and a half to do with these adults, and they were done. They were done just from stretch. And so what we've learned over the years is how to scale it appropriately. I feel pretty good about our approach now. It did take a lot of years. It did take thousands of hours to get it where it needs to be, but I think we're on the money now.
100%. If we look at the other end of the spectrum, we've got these, deconditioned members of society, but what about, highly paid professional athletes? That's really where I've spent most of my time. That's sort of what my business is based around, helping coaches to work with those elite athletes. Can you tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
where gymnastic strength training can help or influence guys in other sports at the high?
Well, they've got to, because we've had the, not as much as you, but over the last couple of years, we've had an opportunity to work with some of the former pro rugby guys, and it's essential that they get exposed to our weighted mobility work. Uh,
Yeah,
what happens is they get so strong with such reduced range of motion that as soon as shoulders are compromised, hips are compromised, knees are compromised, and you know what happens in their training is everything can be controlled in an exact plane of motion, but that doesn't happen when they're playing. So when they get out on the field, when they get outside that very narrow window that they can exhibit their strength, they get injured because outside of that, where they're crazy strong at, they're fragile, they're almost brittle. So you've got to get their mobility up to snuff. And we're not talking about yoga. We're not interested in yoga. They can find inner peace on their own at another time. We're interested in performance,
yeah,
and we're interested in longevity of the athlete's career. So the weighted mobility addresses both of those. It's not a matter of when is their knee always going to track when they run? No, their knee's not going to track over their feet when they run. When they cut side to side, that knee's coming inward, it's coming laterally. And if you haven't prepared the meniscus and the ACL and the MCL and everything else to handle those loads, that knee's going to go. That knee's going to go. So rather than hoping it won't happen, plan that it is going to happen, and prepare the athlete so that nothing happens when it does happen.
yeah, 100%. It makes sense. What about some of the gymnastic strength stuff? Is there a place, professional athletes or strong guys should start with that work, or something that they should incorporate beyond the mobility?
I would start with our floor core work. So we have some students here who work with our professional football players in the
Yeah,
NFL, and they're finding that by our standards that their cores are non-existent. So we don't want anyone to stop the style of training that they're comfortable with, but the weighted mobility, the hollow body rocks, all that series that we do for core and lower back, those can be integrated into any style of physical prep.
100%. I think that's a good place to start. It's pretty humbling to try and do an L-sit for the first time. Um, you spent 12 years, 15 years in the gym, and then you first try and do an L-sit. It's definitely
It's
an experience.
it's we enjoy it.
Uh,
We enjoy watching it.
And what about the other side there with the elite athletes, coach? If we think about sort of the mental side and what it takes in terms of training ethic, I guess gymnastics pushes that stuff to the extreme from an early age. Like what is it that separates those guys that really push for the top level compared to those that don't?
Well, I think you're going to find it's the same in any at a world class level, regardless of sport. We're gonna find the same type of character. It's going to be all flavors. Some are funny, some are serious, some are in between, but they all just have world class talent that's married with a blue collar work ethic. They are not afraid to get in there and work. They're not afraid to get in there. They don't need to be entertained. They don't need you to hold their hand. They don't need you to blow in their ear. They'll get in there. They can handle as at a world class level. A lot of the interaction between coach and athlete is, even though we're joking around, is negative in nature because we're telling them no, 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 do it again, do it again, do it again, no, do it again. And you need someone whose character can handle that, understanding that it's not personal, understanding that a coach with the best knowledge in the world can't create anything without a great athlete to work with. And then someone who has tremendous athletic potential, he's not going anywhere either without a good coach to help him develop it. It takes the two of them working together to create this great athletic accomplishment. They both have to understand their job, have to understand their individual responsibilities, and get it done.
Yep. The other thing that I really loved about the seminar that well, the two seminars that I went to of yours, while you're in Australia, was how you feel like the traits that you need to be successful as an athlete carry over to other aspects of life. Can you talk a bit
Oh,
about how
absolutely.
it's affected your business?
Touch on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we have gymnastic bodies is monstrous now. It's gigantic. We're a seven-figure company now. We're on our way to being an eight-figure company. We have doubled in size every year I've been in business. Mm, That being said, when we first got going, we were first getting ready to open the doors. Uh, a mentor of mine, former teammate who's a generation ahead of me, incredibly successful man, multimillionaire in several companies. I just went up to Rob, sir, I don't know anything about business. I don't know that I can do this. And what his advice to me was, how would you prepare an athlete for national team? I said, well, that's easy, sir. I know exactly how to do that. I said, it'll take me 5 years, but I'm very comfortable with the process. I know what to do. And he told me to run my business that exact same way with those same standards. And he was right. He was exactly right. You work hard. You don't compromise. You maintain quality. You don't try to rush. Uh, you never bullshit. See, that's the great thing about sport is that there's no bullshit possible. You either were the champion, you did the best, you won, or you lost. No one wants to hear your excuses. No one wants to hear why everyone was against you. The officials didn't like me. I didn't have good enough players. Blah blah blah. No one gives a crap about any of that. You won or you didn't win. And if you won, it was because you had prepared the best. You deserved to win. So we run our business the same way. If we don't know something, we go out and learn it. If it's something that's not a good return on investment for me to personally go learn, for example, graphic design, there's programming that's needed for our website. Our website is gigantic. Then we go and we hire out programmers to take care of that for us. But the bottom line is we run it with the same standards as though we were going to be national team. And what that's done for us is because GB should not be able to be, if we look at it, if everything in life is equal, GB should not be as large as it is now. Because if all the other people were doing their job, I shouldn't have been able to catch up like we have. And the reality is that there's just not that much competition out there at the top level. So if you're the least bit sharp, you're willing to put in the effort, you're willing to put in the work, uh, day in, day out, then you're going to be very successful. If you're looking for shortcuts, if you're looking to do just enough to get by, then your reality on that side is you're always going to be average. And so you kind of get to choose the level of success that you're going to enjoy. If you want to be monstrously successful, you want everything that goes with it. You want the Porsche, you want the house, you want to travel the world, which all those things are great, right? You can't get those things though by chasing those things. You earn those things by putting out the best possible quality in your professional life. Those other material, those are just side benefits. The first primary focus has to be I'm going to do the very best job possible I can, without exception. I'm going to be relentless in my expectations of myself and my athletes. Then great things happen once you embrace that. And it's got to be for the long term. It can't be, you know what, for the next 2 weeks I'm going to work harder than anyone in the world. With our athletes, we and our business, we look in terms of 1 year windows. Anything less than 1 year, it's just kind of the flavor of the month. Things shift. Even when I'm tracking athletes training, I don't pay attention a lot to. I mean, we track every single turn. I know what happened on what day, on what event, on what date. I mean, we just go back and I know what happened. But I don't worry about an individual day because people have highs and lows, come in tired, it's been a good day, it's been a bad day. The smallest unit I'm interested in is a week's training. And then the one that matters is a year's training. You
Yeah.
know, how did our year go? How did our strength improve over a year? How did our mobility improve over a year? How did our skill acquisition go over the course of a year? And what you'll find if you do the same thing with your business, personal life, it doesn't matter, is it takes away that sense of trying to rush. It takes away the inclination to try to find a shortcut, to try to get away from the fact that this is going to be a buttload of work, that you're going to sit down and you're going to bust your tail, and it's just how it is. And once you embrace that, now I understand that for a lot of guys, especially when they're getting started, same for athletes, that it just sounds like, oh my God, a year. But guys, the year is going to go by anyway. The year is going to go by. So it becomes then a matter of, after this year has gone by, well, where would you have been today if you had started this process 1 year ago? You know, looking back where a lot of the listeners are right now, where would they be today had this past year been a productive year in the manner in which I just described? Okay, now a lot of them are probably close to being in the same place now they were a year ago. Well, we're getting ready to start a New Year's window, right? This is an opportunity now to set some new habits, to set some new goals, to hold yourself accountable. So where will they be 1 year from now? Will they be in the same place because they did the same things with the same attitude, with the same standards? Or are they going to be somewhere that they'd been hoping they would be because they earned it? Oh, personal choice.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I think if when people do realize, when we realize that it is our choice, then that's really empowering for us to, make the right decisions and then take those actions each day. You definitely put
Well,
it.
we go out of our way. I'm adamant with our athletes coming up that we're not just training athletes. That the last thing the world needs is another knuckle dragging ex jock who's not good for anything else but doing something in sport. To my mind, if that's all I had produced as a coach were national champions and a slew more of medals, I failed. I consider that a failure. My athletes were trained and were brought up that the skills they learn in their training, the perseverance, the work ethic, the focus, the self-sacrifice, the character, those are all things that should be applied in other areas of their life as well. That's why we have athletes that go on and are doctors and attorneys and business owners and engineers, because they were told early on in their development that this isn't just specific to sport, that if you can be successful in sport, you can take these same characteristics you've developed and you can apply them in other arenas as well. You just the same way as I was taught by my mentor, you just have to understand that it's possible to do so, and not get freaked out that there's new language or new knowledge that has to be acquired. It's just a matter, it'd be no different than picking up another technique in lifting or a new exercise or a new stretch. You just have to have an open mind and understand this is going to get me where I want to go, embrace the process and run with it.
Yeah, I love it. Whenever we're learning new stuff, I think we're going in the right direction. I like what you said about learning new skills all year round at the seminar. That's definitely where we should be in life. Just continually learning and developing year round. If we can do that year after year, great things are going to happen. How much do you think this strength gymnastics training will? How big can it get in terms of adult training?
I actually think we're at 16,000 forum members now. Uh, it's funny. I actually think it's you know for those who don't know where we are today, because maybe 14 years ago Pavel Tsatsouline, who does the kettlebells. Pavel saw body weight coming way back when and asked me to write. I've done, I don't know, 600, 700 articles since then, but he's the one that asked me to write my very first article way back when. Uh, I think today is going to be successful for GST simply because of the age that we live in. You know, we have the technology for podcasts. We have Facebook for disseminating information, online forums for information. We've got online courses that are very multimedia heavy, which allow us to do things in distance learning that in the old days would have had to been face to face. You've got coaches at my level who are, world class instructors who previously, if you weren't a national team level athlete, you and I don't get to interact. I mean, it just not in a mean way. It just means that our social circles wouldn't have intercepted. I would have been at Olympic Training Center, working with athletes that were on national team. I wouldn't have been able to been in Australia working with adult fitness enthusiasts and great coaches like Keegan. It's just an opportunity that didn't exist in the old days. So what we have now is you got this great knowledge that we bring to the table with this new technology, and then we have an audience that's hungry to learn. So I think it's just going to continue to explode. We're unfortunately keep getting proven right by those who are looking for shortcuts, and they're getting injuries. One of our students ended up being a very good student of ours, came out of special operations in the military, and looked for the hardest thing we were doing, tried it, and it blew him up. And so then he came in to learn. And so we're finding that a lot of people now have got, despite our recommendations to start slow, be calm, be patient, they've been bit enough, kind of the same way that CrossFit was with their Olympic lifting back in the day. When they first started doing their lifting, their technique was beyond pathetic. I mean, their snatches would have both elbows bent or one elbow straight, one elbow bent, and they're wiggling and pushing up over the top. Things that today, if they would try to do it, people would look at them and say, do you have an aneurysm? What's your problem? So we'll see the same increase in quality with the GST.
Yep.
And as that continues, we have a lot of advanced students now who are doing great. We're very pleased. We've got guys who are in their 70s working iron crosses. We've got tall guys who are 6'6" who are doing front levers and press handstands.
Yep.
Doing pull-ups with half body weight. They're cranking. They're good muscle mass, good agility, good mobility. It just it took time for people to learn that we're not being slow and patient because we're old guys who are boring. We're being slow and patient because doing it that way gets us where we want to go the fastest.
Yep.
Being slow and patient in the beginning allows you to be fast later. Being fast now gets you hurt, and then you aren't going anywhere.
100%. And I think that's what excites me about this training is, to be able to continue to progress and the injury prevention aspect to it. That as I get older, as a coach, I just can't afford to be injured, and it makes so much sense to follow a methodical approach that's going to help me to keep improving into my 40s, and I want to still be doing this stuff in my 50s, 60s, 70s. So that's how long I plan to train like this. So I really appreciate the effort that you put into developing this system for adults. It is definitely something that's outside of the box, outside of the wheelhouse, I guess, for most elite gymnastics coaches. And it's such a valuable service that you're providing, and getting around the world, taking some time away from your family to sort of share that system is awesome, and I really am grateful that you make that effort. I got a lot out of the time that I spent with you, at the workshop in Sydney, and then going down to Tasmania to double it up. Just reinforced a lot of what I learned, and I'm really keen to continue with it. Get over to Denver and continue my learning, and just yeah, I want to say that I'm really really thankful for what you do, and thank you a lot for your time today. It's always great to hear you, and some of these lessons I've learned before from you, and I'm going to probably keep learning them again. I think that repetition of quality information from quality coaches is really where it's at in terms of getting to the next level as a coach. So thank you for being part of that, and thanks for your time today.
It's my pleasure, Keegan. I enjoyed it, big guy.
Awesome. See you down under again in just under 12 months, hopefully.
Yeah, won't be long. It'll come fast.
Maybe see you in North America in a couple.
That'd be good. We've got some brutal things planned for the master class.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to get myself in shape. I'll keep working on it.
Sounds
Thanks,
good,
Chris.
buddy.
Really appreciate your time.
All right, Keegan, you have a good one, big guy.
Thank you.
Can really have a